Hey, hey, hey. Time for another out of this world story from rSpace. Am I the a-hole for insisting that my wife's friends stay in a hotel? Most of this took place a few years ago, but it's needed for context. My wife's best friend is a gay guy. A few years ago, he got a partner, and it was a big deal as he'd never had a long-term partner before. But as he lives quite a few hours away, a weekend visit seemed like the best way to meet. Our spare room has a bookshelf with the remaining items of my nerdy collection. I'd sold most of it to help buy us the house, and these were items that were the most valuable to me, sentimentally and value-wise. I don't mind people staying in the room, I just ask them to be mindful of my stuff. So, he and his partner came for a weekend. Things were perfectly fine. His boyfriend was very shy, but seemed like a nice guy. Unfortunately, I got the news that my gran had a really bad fall, and it caused an aneurysm. She was given an estimate of a few days before she would pass away. I was obviously upset and went to see her in the hospital. My wife wanted to come with me, so we made sure her friends were okay and left them to it late afternoon. We were in the hospital for about 8 hours as she slipped in and out of consciousness and seemed in terrible pain. Finally, we decided to go home and get some rest before going back the next day. When we got there are some clothes on the floor in the living room, and our rabbit is looking very strange and huddled in a corner. A few minutes later, and her friends come running out of the bathroom with towels and disappear upstairs to the spare room. At that moment, I didn't care as I was exhausted and went to bed. In the morning, my wife went to explain that we would be going back to the hospital, and they said that was great because the new boyfriend needed to go to the ER as he had really bad pains. That worked out, as we didn't know what to do with them till they could get their train. This meant we could drop them off, as it was the same hospital and the train station was nearby. He got the all clear and they left. My gran hung out for a week before passing, thankfully in peace. However, when cleaning the spare room, I found that several of my things had been tampered with. 3 model kits that were broken, not unfixable. But the worst was that a mint in-box vintage transformer had been opened. I was incredibly pissed off by this and ended up ranting about how they were selfish jackasses. My wife said she didn't want to complain to them because she didn't want them thinking I was homophobic, which I replied that I don't care what they think. Their sexuality had zero to do with it. It was their lack of respect. I calmed down and eventually just dropped it. However, it's now 2 years later and they want to come stay again now that COVID restrictions are easing off. I said that was fine, but they would need to get a hotel as I'm not having them stay in the spare room. My wife thinks I'm being an a-hole for this and didn't want to tell them to do that. Am I the a-hole here? Okay, so it seems like they had been having sex in the living room. Also, the boyfriend's injury seemed to be a cut on his scrotum that he was worried would be infected. Now, our rabbit can get bitey when spooked, so it seems like he got a fright while they were doing it and bit the boyfriend on his nuts. This is the bunny boy. His name is Juan Sanchez Villalobos Ramirez. Don't mess with him. Update. Electric Boogaloo. Thanks for the support, everyone. It's helped me clear my head, as I feel like I am definitely seeing things clearly. I had a talk last evening. My wife got home and she was a bit less freaked out. I think I was angry when she told me they want to come back. I reminded her of all the antics and she started to sound much more understanding. She asked me to help her craft a message to them to explain things. We listed our problems with their last visit, apart from the sex and rabbit attack. And she also said she hadn't actually confirmed anything with them yet. We will see what their reply is. Update. We got a reply back, and it is very apologetic. They apparently forgot to bring it up due to them being worried about the infected cut, but it seems that the model kits were accidentally knocked over by a bag, and that they meant to tell me. Also, the boyfriend has ADHD and really bad impulse control. He had recently changed his meds, and was a bit out of sorts. Which I could see he definitely was a bit odd. Anyway, he picked up one of the transformers and flicked the box open before he knew what he was doing. There was cut tape, so it wasn't as easy as it sounds to just flick open. He never actually pulled the toy out and stopped and put it back right away, not realizing that the box got a bit of damage from it. They have said that they wanted to stay at a hotel anyway, as my wife is pregnant and they didn't want to be an inconvenience like last time. Also, maybe fear of rabbit? They also said they would compensate me for the damages, but I've not actually told them how much the figure was worth. I think they will freak out when they realize, but I wouldn't charge them full cost, just what the loss of value is. Obviously, no talk of the weird other stuff, but this is a good start. Final update. After some research into the figure cost, I gave them the rough estimate of damage. It was an actual phone call, so it was nice to be able to talk rather than text, where you can misconstrue context or tone. As I said, this helped me vent quite a bit. I'd obviously internalized some anger from the visit, and I really didn't like that. It should have been addressed at the time, but with my grand's death, things just slipped, and then my wife barely has contact with him until now. So it was nice to chat and hear a really sincere apology. Whether there is truth to the whole impulse control issue thing doesn't really matter. It's over and done. I've obviously dwelled on it too long already. I know not to get into that situation where I leave things around when people might be ignorant to their true value. Sure, it all may have seemed like a cascade of disrespectful moments, but from our chat, it did sound like they were nervous and a bit uncomfortable and awkward after we left them alone and got quite drunk. They said they fooled around a bit and they know that it was over the line, but they got embarrassed the next day. I didn't want to broach the mad theory of bunny vengeance, which I feel like I need to state is a total mad theory. We just speculated it due to the awkwardness, injury, weird bun behavior, and them saying that he needed a shot that was super painful. We jumped to the, did they get a rabies shot? But I in no way think that there was any weird sex play with the rabbit. Hell, strangers can barely pick him up without getting wild thrashing and claws. I don't see someone being able to entice him into a threesome. It's just a dark joke with only a slight possibility. So, in the end, they are happy to pay compensation. I was going to refuse and just let it go, but what I hadn't realized is they are freaking loaded, and while they were shocked at the price, they were still willing and insistent to pay. I feel like it's probably guilt that is driving their insistence, as it's been 2 years and just being addressed now. Anyway, they're going to visit in a few weeks. They are staying at a hotel, and we're fine with that. It will be good to actually get to know them properly. Hopefully, the tension has been broken and everything is cool. We shall see. Let's see what the community thinks. Angel Slington says, So, not the a-hole. They knew your stuff was precious, you had explained it to them, and while you were undergoing a crisis, they had no concern for you and ripped the boxes open. And this has nothing to do with homophobia, no matter what your wife says. That they may think you don't want them there because they are gay? Hell, I'm also part of the community and would never dream of acting like this in someone's home. You don't want them in your home because of the lack of respect they showed for your home and your contents. I would have given them a bill for all the damaged items, and don't let them back in. They destroyed your items, as your grandmother was dying. Who does that? The OP responds, I didn't want to add fuel to the fire, but he complained that I was grumpy the second day later via text. Didn't even ask how I was doing. I feel like they must have misunderstood what I was going through, as I can't fathom it. Next response from Mental Ice 6. What a-holes could complain about you not being perfectly joyful when that was going on with your grandma? Absolutely not the a-hole. And honestly, I wouldn't even have them over at your house. Maybe meet somewhere for coffee. The OP response again. Yeah, it's weird as I've met him on his own, and he seemed fine and apparently liked me enough to think I was perfect for my wife. I want to chalk it up to just a weird time and maybe they were drunk. Next respondent, KFNNNP. I'm confused. What was the significance of the rabbit looking strange, the clothes in the living room, and the friends running into the spare room with towels, if the issue is the damage to your stuff in the spare room? The OP responds, okay, I had to cut that short because it was over the limit count. Basically, it was very obvious they had been having sex in our living room. I would have been fine if it was the bathroom, but the door to the house basically comes right into the living room. If we hadn't made noise arriving, we would have walked in on them. It's just a bit disrespectful. Last comment from Princess Sauerkraut. It's very disrespectful to have sex in someone else's living room when you're a guest. That's gross. What the F gave them the idea that that'd be okay? It's different if it's their own place, but someone else's home? No. Super out of bounds. To be honest, I'd ban them just for that. The fact that they thought it was okay to screw with your stuff would just be the cherry on top of the "these people are not allowed to stay in my home ever again" Sunday. Moving on to another quick question. Would I be the a-hole if I demand a DNA test on my ex's baby? Last year, my girlfriend, 24 female, and I, 26 male, broke up at the end of June, July, because we realized it wasn't working and we both still had feelings for our previous exes. We were only together for 1 month, but we had sex. Now she has a 3-month-old and I'm convinced he is my child. I saw her in ASDA, the UK, and she tried to hide. I messaged her and she told me she won't let me do a test, but she has no proof he's not my son. He was 8 pounds 4 ounces when he was born, although she says he was 1 month early. I'm no expert, but this seems a little far-fetched to me. I want to know if this baby is my son because I would like the chance to step up, but would I be an a-hole to demand a DNA test to be sure? If it comes back negative, then obviously I will leave her alone, but if it comes back positive, I want a relationship with my child. If she is telling the truth, he would have been conceived in August because he was born in April, but if he's mine, he would have been conceived in June or July. Alright community, would he be the a-hole? Westgate says, you would not be the a-hole. Absolutely. You want to step up and be a father if this child is yours. At over 8 pounds, it's unlikely he was a month early. I'm sure it's not impossible, and I'm no expert, but the 8-pound babies I've met were always full term or even late. Can you demand this test in the UK if the mother's not willing? Our next response is from Icy Jellyfish 6244. Sometimes they will deliver the baby a bit early because they are big. My friend had an 8-pound 36-week baby. I agree OP is warranted in wanting to test, but it's not far-fetched, depending on what he means by a month early, because 36 weeks would be term. 39/40 is full term, but 36 weeks is totally fine to deliver. Or does he mean a month before term, as in 32-ish weeks, which would be a preterm delivery and pretty much impossible for the baby to be 8 pounds. Next comment from Narauko. My daughter was born at 35 weeks and 5 days, so just shy of being term, and she was 9 pounds. There were some blood sugar concerns, so we think there was some undiagnosed gestational diabetes that caused her to be larger. My wife had to do multiple glucose tests, always failing the 1 hour but passing the 3-hour one, so that seems likely. But yeah, we always got asked if we were sure she was early for a while there. Icy Jellyfish 6244 chimed in again. Ah, yeah, that's true. I forgot about diabetes. My mom being a diabetic actually probably saved my life. I was born around 27 weeks. I should have been 2 pounds or less, but I was 3 pounds. I had a lot of complications, but being bigger meant I had a better chance of survival and made it possible for them to do the surgeries I needed. ETA. Then again, probably wouldn't have been born so early and messed up if she hadn't been diabetic.